Hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's episode of 30 Minutes Robotic Milking Edition. I'm your host, Marcia Andres, dairy science professor and extension specialist at the University of Minnesota in St. Paul. With us today is also your co-host, Jim Sulfur, dairy extension educator at the St. Cloud Regional Office. Good morning, Jim.
Hi, and welcome everyone. It's a beautiful day today in Minnesota, so hopefully it won't get too warm next week.
Yes, it'll be nice. It's supposed to be quite hot, I think, in it, Jim, but hopefully we'll make it. It's been kind of dry for us here. We need some rain. So as a reminder, if you are watching this as a recording on YouTube and you want to join us for the live discussion next time, and you never registered before, please go to z.umn.edu/30minrm to register and get your unique Zoom link to join the webinar. And once you register once, you'll be getting reminders automatically to join the webinar in the following months. So just a reminder. And also another thing I would like to ask before we get going and invite our guests to join us is that Jim and I would like you to use the Q&A box to enter your questions and comments rather than the chat box. So we'll be monitoring the Q&A box, which you can find on the bottom of your screen. If you go with your mouse and it shows up Q&A, just click on that and type your question or comment. We're very pleased today to have the producer from Wisconsin, Kyle, joining us. Please go ahead and join us, Kyle. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here today. And as usual, we're going to have you give us an overview of your dairy and robotic system. And then I'll come back and Jim will come back to help with the question and answer session. So thank you. And I'm going to go away for a little while.
Okay, so this is our dairy. In the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see that is our robotic facility. We built that in 2016. And then just above that, you will see our conventional freestall. And just above that, at the end of the old barn, that is the parlor and holding barn. We still milk 180 cows in the parlor, and we are currently milking 150 in the robotic facility. We're currently installing a fourth robot right now, and then we will be at 170. Our limiting factor right now being stalls. So this is another photo of our robotic facility. It originally was a 2-robot facility, single robot pens with perimeter feeding. So 2 groups of 65 cows was original. And then we're currently remodeling into a toll booth design. So 2 robots per pen and virtually the same layout, but toll booth. This is a photo of our parlor that is still in use. This was built in '95. We've milked a lot of cows through here. We currently milk 3 times a day. 2 employees staff the parlor, 1 employee pushing cows. We milk 180 cows 3x through this parlor. This is our current robotic setup. We have 2 robots in the center main robot room, and then 1 in a perimeter robot room that we just built a standalone robot room in the existing holding pen. We moved both classics into the same pen. So we have 1 pen with 2 VMS classics in it, and then right now the V300 is a standalone in its own pen, and then we're adding another one, so it'll have 1 pen with 2 classics and 1 pen with two V300s eventually. But right now the V300 is by itself. Yes, and this, so this is a picture here. This is of what it looked like afterwards when we were up and running with the toll booth design. We added that standalone robot room there. They exit, so it's one entrance through a sort gate into a pre-milking confinement pen or holding pen, and then group exit, and then they go through a smart selection gate, and that decides if they go to a sort pen for treatment or if they go to the feed line. This is a photo of the new construction, the new V300 that's being put in. They're working on it out in the barn right now, getting it hooked up. We're hoping to be going next week. Yeah, so then we will have two V300s in one pen. This is a photo of, so the one-way gates on the right, and then the standalone robot room there. And then they come through the one-way gates and go into the feed lane. And then you can see just shortly down the feed lane is another set of one-way gates that keeps cows from coming back and disrupting cow flow. So this is a photo of the head-to-heads in the center of our barn. Our stalls are deep bedded sand. We bed weekly. Every Wednesday when we do herd health, my dad works with the veterinarian, and then I go through and add bedding and groom stalls, and we put it's called Pure Cal calcium. We put that on the stalls to help dry them out, and we've had really good success with our sand bedding. I would not do it any other way. We decided to go with baffles in our barns rather than push fans in it. When we were doing our touring, I felt that there wasn't much of a difference between push fans and baffles as far as results, and just the cost was a huge difference. We went with cross ventilation, even though it is a fairly narrow barn. Just simply cow comfort, a lot of cows in a small area. We wanted to get the optimal air movement. So it's 16-foot sidewalls, baffles, 72-inch J&D fans. We can get about 6.5, 7 mile an hour of air through the cows during the summer. We went with headlocks for herd health and breeding purposes. So our sort pens in our barn are quite small compared to a lot of farms that you'll see. So we set our headlocks Wednesday mornings. We set the headlocks. We go through. We do herd health. Saturday mornings we set the headlocks. We go through. We do all of our breedings for OVSync and that. And we felt the headlocks really made a difference. Our veterinarian can be in and out, herd checking our entire herd for pregnancies in about 45 minutes to an hour. Here's just another close-up of the cattle in the feed bunk. We do have an automatic feed pusher. We have a Jaws feed pusher, and that runs 8 times a day. It's starting at, so we feed at 4 a.m. and then we actually start pushing feed at 4 p.m. and then it runs every 2 hours until feeding again. So it's probably, yeah, 6 times. So. Here's a photo of our post robot sort pen. We use this for mastitis treatment, off feed treatment, single breedings due to natural heats during the week. It's just a small sort pen area. We get a notification immediately when they enter the pen, and we go treat the cow, let them go. In this photo, there's no feed there. We had just cleaned it out. Typically, I feed alfalfa baled hay, or depending on the cow's treatment. Sometimes I'll put down dry cow TMR or something like that for cows with upset stomachs. And we do have a pipeline up above it just for bucket milking. So I can individually milk cows that don't let their milk down or need special attention. And that helps save time in the robot rather than having to do those special needs cows in the VMS, taking up time. This is another picture of, on the left here is the current temporary setup for exiting the V300, the newest robot. We actually have no selection gate at this time in that area. They just exit. We're doing everything in the headlocks. I'm really missing my smart selection gate. On the right, you'll see kind of a mirrored effect. That's what is on the other side right now. And they go through that smart selection gate, and that decides if they go left or right. Left to the sort pen and right to the feed lane. And that's been a great success so far. These are just more pictures of our install this week, bringing in the robot. Bob's Dairy Supply is who we work with. We've had just great results with them. They're very active in the VMS community. They're very, very good. Yeah, they have wheels on the unit that they made, and we just took it off the trailer, put it on the wheels, rolled it in, and put it in place. It was a very painless process. On the left, that would be our first time we went into technology. I was 3 at the time. My dad built that Heifer facility. On the right is calves 2 months old, and then they are 12 stall pens that go all the way down and then rotate around the other side. It's got automatic scrapers, climate controlled tunnel ventilation. So that was our first time delving into technology. That barn is still housing heifers today. So 30 years later, and the scraper is still on its original chain. And I would say that was a success. My dad's goal building that facility was that it would take 1 employee 1 hour a day to manage that facility of heifers in that age group, and I would say we've achieved that. On the right here is a picture of our tools, which is on a rolling cart to better access perimeter robot rooms, scrapers, and that. We try to be very efficient. And on the right photo, but the left-hand side is a cart for veterinary medicine. Pills, probiotics, IVs, and that is also on a rolling cart that we can take out to the perimeter treatment pens if needed, and again, trying to save trips. You know, if you can roll the cart over there and have everything that you need, it's more efficient. The goal of the barn, of course, is labor efficiency with robotics. And we've just learned some tricks in time to be better efficient. These are just photos of our family. Our goal putting in robots was very similar to most. It was more family time, better quality family time. That is my dad on the left. Perry Abel, and then my son, his name is Derry Abel. So, and then in our heifer facility, and then the center, my wife and I took over ownership of the farm this spring, and that's me and my dad and my son signing the paperwork. And then on the right is a picture of my son and the De La Valle banner. We did a tour for Farm Tech Days last summer where people during Farm Tech could sign up for our tour. And then on one of the last days of Farm Technology Days, we had about 50 people come out to the farm, tour, and take a look of our facility because we had just started the toll booth thing and people wanted to see that new design.
Thank you, Kyle. That was very interesting. And you've done some changes over the years, so that'll probably generate some questions and things like that.
Yes, we joke around here that our cows are used to the sound of air hammers and chop saws.
Okay,
We're always doing something around.
that's good. Improving. You know, it's always good to
Yeah.
keep moving, right? Ahead and making changes that make sense and improve labor efficiency and so on. So now we'll open up for questions from our audience. A little bit smaller audience than usual today. Of course, it's summertime and people are busy. There's county fairs, so many things going on. So I do appreciate those of you who joined us today for this discussion. First question we have is, how many cows do you have in the 2 VMS group and how are the cows flowing?
So currently in that pen, I am at 85.
Okay.
I've been as high as 90. I didn't care for, again, the limiting factor is stalls.
Okay.
At 160% stocking density, I still see 2 or 3 empty stalls at any given time. And so we were comfortable with that. When we went to 90, there was never an empty stall ever. And I didn't care for that. So we reduced back to 85 and I felt it was much more comfortable. So.
Interesting. Okay, thank you. A lot of producers seem to be doing this now, you know, like having more, more space in the robot, if you will, but less in the stalls because you're kind of making it a little more crowded. It's interesting. It seems to be working. It's
right.
kind of
The goal was at one time we went through and we did a herd inventory and there would be 15, 20 stalls empty at any given time. And so we slowly started increasing until we got to where the beds were at a comfortable usage rate. And then again, this is temporary. Our ultimate goal is to add more beds. We would like to get closer to that 130 or 140% stocking density, and 60 cows per robot. I think is kind of our farm sweet spot, and everybody has their comfort.
Sure. Jim, could you get the next question, please?
The next question is, can you talk more about how you added robots and how that works? So I'm assuming this question is about when you added these extra robots, like you're putting in this new one. How did that kind of work?
So when we built a 2 robot barn design, single pen design, with the idea that we could flip the barn in the future. So the bulk tanks, the compressors, everything was already scaled for 4 robots in the future. Now we did not anticipate doing the toll booth design. We had not thought of that. A lot of our design over the years has been almost everything has been taken from Jake Peisig and JTP. And he did this toll booth design first. He took an existing pen and built a standalone robot room in the holding area and turned it into a toll booth with a common exit and exit around the robot room. And they called me shortly after they were up and running. And he said, you should come see this. And he goes, I think you'd be interested. And I came and looked at it. We ordered our robot the next morning.
Wow, that was a quick decision.
Yeah.
Really convincing.
Well, I'm a big numbers person, and I came home and I started crunching the numbers on if I could milk 20 more cows without any additional construction costs other than this robot room, how quickly could I turn that profitability around? And and then also by taking the cows from milking 2.8 times a day to 3 or more, what production increase could I see and recover that? I factored in only 2 pounds of increase. And by my math, I could pay for that robot and construction in 2.5 years. And I would say we saw closer to 5 and could be as much as 8 pounds
Wow.
increase by going from 2.8, and we actually made it to 3.3.
Interesting. Okay, that's good. Good observations there. Paying attention to those. This question is a follow-up to number of cows. Maybe you could have. Sorry, I should have maybe follow up with it. Will you do the same amount of cows on the side with the VMS, the 2 V300s now?
That's our intentions at this time, is to go to the same number of cows, 85. We'll see how it goes. Typically, our V300, just because it can handle more troublesome cattle, ends up being a lot of heifers. So it'll be interesting to see how that herd dynamic works. Can it handle 85? Does it have to be less? Could it be more? It'll be interesting to watch the herd dynamics and see where that all lands. Of course, with the robot not being the limiting factor, it kind of changes how you look at things. You know, right now that pen's capacity is 65. Just because the V300 is kind of tapped out at that point. We're milking about 185 milkings a day, and that's kind of been our sweet spot in that machine. So.
Okay, makes sense. Jim, there are a couple questions here about what's coming up here. Similar questions, I guess, but
yeah, how do you qualify cows for the robot barn versus a parlor barn? And the next question is kind of similar. Are you selecting certain cows to the robot, and what factors do you consider? So kind of how do you determine which cows go to your robot, which ones go on the parlor? Maybe it's, I think you talked a little bit about the VMS, the classics versus V300. So just clarify how you get cows and how you sort them in which group.
Okay, so when a heifer, at first, when we went into the facility, it was just simply udder position. If they had good udder composition, they were a robot cow. And that's how we started then. And then after the first move, then it went down to, we only moved heifers into the facility from then on as replacements. And that was 100% based on udder composition first, feet and legs second, temperament third, was kind of how we did things. Now with the V300, all new cattle who have never been in the robot before start in the V300. And then as I need cattle to fill my classics pen, I go through their milking performance and I find cattle that have no incomplete milkings in the last 7 days, a very low kickoff percentage, and then those are the cattle that I move to the other group. So that's how we do it.
Okay. A little bit related to cows again. Do robot trained cows always re-enter the facility, or do you see cows?
I would say 90% of the time.
Okay.
So all of our cattle are dried off together. They're in a group dry cow facility. They calve together. All cattle transition through the parlor.
Okay.
And then typically at 30 days in milk, I start to make, well, I've made the decision, is she going back to the robots? Is she not? And then we make that transition. Because of the way our robotic facility is designed, we're not really built to treat special needs cattle as far as ketosis and that. So I need them to be past those metabolic hurdles. And so I wait till 30 days of milk and then I make that decision. But typically, if their udder is in fair composition and they were a robot cow, they return to being a robot cow.
Okay. And do you see cows lasting longer or milking more in the robots compared to the conventional step-up
I
farm?
do.
Okay.
I do. It has become a retirement home of sorts for some cattle. When they can't handle the parlor anymore, the standing in the holding barn, and that we've taken cattle before and moved them to the robotic facility and extended their life dramatically. So it has made a big difference. And of course, the V300 with its better attachment has really made a difference too in allowing a wider variety of cattle.
The next question is a question that I had, Jim, but we can ask him.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. What's
Right.
next? I mean, you've made a lot of changes. You're going to retrofit your other barns. You're going to build another robot barn. Sounds like you're always changing something.
So right now we are, because of just taking over ownership, my wife and I just moved houses. And we're going to go in a holding pattern for a little while, pay off some debt, try to free up capital. I think before we make any moves, we need to expand our land base. We're at that 1.8, 1.9 acres per cow point now, and I'm comfortable with that, but I would like to expand that. So if we milk more cows in the future, that I can maintain that, 2 acres per cow is kind of my goal.
But if you milk more cows, Kyle, are you going to still keep your step-up parlor, or you think you see yourselves in the future moving completely to robots, you think?
I think there will always be a place for our parlor.
Okay.
Now it may be just a simple post-fresh pen and milking 30 cows,
Okay.
and then the robots take the rest. I think a long view, I would like to see us getting to having 8 robots,
Okay.
4 pens of 2, toll booth design, milking 480, 500 cows on robots, and milking 60 back in the parlor, and kind of be at that 600 total cows range, and be almost 90% robotic.
Okay, so that's your ultimate goal. Okay, good to hear, good to know. So that means you like robots. So that's, I always like to ask that question, right? Because
Right.
if you're not planning to
Right.
go more, maybe.
Yeah, I think if money was not an object,
Sure.
I would not be afraid whatsoever to go 100% robotic or 90% robotic. I do like the parlor. I think milking new cattle, especially heifers, 3 times a day, and training them that routine, seeing them every day, 3 times a day, working with them, I think helps. It definitely makes training heifers and the robots much easier.
Sure.
The large part of breaking them per se is already done.
Sure, makes sense. Yep. One more question, Jim, that we can probably
Yeah,
do.
that's a good question. What is your relationship with your dealer when it comes to maintenance? So do you do maintenance? Do they do it? They train you to do it?
They do the service kits. Every 3 months they come through, they replace majority of the hoses, valves, do that. I do most of the troubleshooting maintenance and arm maintenance. I have a calendar hanging outside my office, and my goal is to limit my service calls to 1 or 2 a month is my goal throughout the year, and then I try to do a large portion of it myself. Our dealer has been excellent. They work really good. A lot of times when I call, they just talk me through how to do it myself. Yeah, that's how we've handled it. That's how we try to manage our service costs.
Excellent. Well, thank you. We are on a time now. It's 30 minutes. Time flies when we're having fun. So I want to
Yeah.
thank you everybody for attending today. And special thanks to you, Kyle. I know it's busy times with harvesting and everything else. So appreciate you taking the time to be here with us. And I want to invite everyone to come back August 17th for our next episode. And I think it's going to be also, again, a farm that has been going through some of these changes and installing more robots. So it's kind of interesting to see the progression and how people are, moving forward with robots. So thank you so much for your time. If there's any other questions, we'll stay a little bit longer, but we'll stop the recording now. Thank you again, everybody, for coming.